to start with, I'm actually I signed up for the Pajamas Media, the PJTV citizen journalism stuff.
Oh,
so
cool.
my goal is to get this up to those guys. And one of their requirements is that I ask you to introduce yourself and essentially say you can, Pajamas TV can use this.
Okay.
So why don't you start with an introduction?
I'm Bill Hennessy. I'm one of the 2 project servant leaders from TCOT in St. Louis.
Okay.
Organizing, leading, however you want to call it, the Tea Parties here with Dana Lash. And I would love for this to be on Pajamas TV.
Yeah, so would I. Tell us a little bit about the first Tea Party, the one that was held back in March. Why don't we start there?
I'll tell you what I can. It was kind of a blur because what happened was the Sunday before the Tea Parties, I posted on my blog that, hey, these other cities are doing this. Be kind of cool to do it in St. Louis. And I was thinking March 14th, which would give us about a month. And we do it before the St. Patrick's Day parade and run and all the stuff that goes on. So there'd already be a natural crowd down here. Dana Lash got a hold of me. Some people from top conservatives on Twitter got a hold of me and said, hey, can we do it this Friday, the 27th, along with half dozen at that time other cities? And I thought, I'm probably signing myself up for something stupid anyway, so I might as well go all the way and say that I could pull this off in a week. So we went with that. We were hoping for 50 people to show up, and we ended up with about somewhere between 1,000 and 1,500. So it was obviously an overwhelming success. And it was a fantastic opportunity for people who didn't think anyone else thought the way they thought about the spending and taxes and the growth of government and the intrusion into our private lives. And they had a chance to find out that they weren't alone. Right.
You'd mentioned that was held at the Arch.
Right.
Did you have anybody up in the Arch? I know the Arch was open at that time. Did you have anybody offer you pictures of the crowd? Do you have any overhead pictures?
No, and I don't know that if they could have gotten that sharp of an angle from the windows in the Arch.
Okay.
And with 1 week of that, and we had conference calls every night for about 2 hours,
Wow.
and I had a website to get up and permits to get, and so much stuff going on. I didn't even think of stuff like that.
That's an interesting point, the permitting process. How much time would you say that it takes to organize something like this? Obviously, you were able to do it in about 5 days, but what's involved in, taking the lead on a project like this and getting it done in a big city? And what's the expectations?
It's interesting because I get questions from people who from other cities who would like to do this. Not so much anymore because it's in 600 cities now, but after February 27th, I get a lot of calls asking about it. And what I told them is just do it. Put a stake in the ground. Say this is where find out enough about the permits, and usually you can find that out on the internet. Pick your site where you would like to have it, and find out what their availability is. That's probably an hour's work. Then put a stake in the ground. Don't have a meeting. Don't gather a bunch of organizations together. Don't ask everybody's opinion because it will never happen. Just put the stake in the ground. Say I'm going to do this. Do the get the permit process started. Have a plan B in case that doesn't work out, and go. Because the consensus, as Margaret Thatcher said, is the absence of leadership.
Interesting. Now, I noticed here you come out to do kind of a site survey today. Today is Saturday.
Right.
And you brought a number of people with you, or did they meet you here? I mean, it seems like you've got an organization now. Tell us how that evolved.
We do to a degree. What happened after February 27th was a whole lot of people stepped forward and said, hey, we want to keep this going. Hand off to us whatever you need to hand off to us.
Okay.
So Phil and Louise Hovey, who are transplants from the D.C. area, were both involved in organizing events like this up there for various organizations. So they really know how to run an operation on the ground way better than I do, and they're doing a much better job. And so really, they're the ones who drug me down here. They know how to do it right. And at this point, I don't know what I am. I just to go where,
you're the point
where
man,
Bill
right?
tells me. Exactly. I go where they tell me to go and stand where they tell me to stand, and everything will work out great.
As a blogger, actually, why don't you mention your website, but also tell me how has traffic been affected on your website since the first Tea Party?
Ironically, traffic on my blog, Hennessy's View, which has been around since 2000, hasn't really changed much. But the site traffic on StLouisTeaParty.com which is only about a month old, is fantastic because it's well over 1,000 unique visitors a day, somewhere around 6,000 page impressions a day, which for a 4-week-old blog is really incredible.
Okay.
So,
are you blogging at both Hennessy's View and at St. Louis Tea Party?
I am. The stlouisteaparty.com. One thing that's very important is focus. This is about growth of government, taxes and spending and borrowing. This whole movement. I want that focus to stay there. But I'm a kind of a generalist conservative, so I have other issues I want to talk about, and I don't want to cross those lines. So Hennessy's View is still whatever happened to irritate me that day. But stlouisteaparty.com is exclusively dedicated to the issues and the events with the Tea Party.
Why don't you talk a little bit more about those issues? Was there a single event that sort of acted as that drove you to go out and organize a Tea Party, or was it like just the ongoing onslaught of many events? What drove you? The
triggering event was really it was a domino thing. It was kind of like a straw that broke the camel's back with the little $79 billion homeowner bailout thing. That wouldn't work anyway, and any banker or personal finance coach would tell you that that's not going to have any impact on people. It's just going to be throwing good money after bad. But it was this series of $1 trillion here and $1 trillion there and a $4 trillion budget proposal and all those things together, because ultimately, I don't like big government, at least at the federal level. I don't have a problem with communities, with cities having hospitals and libraries and schools. If cities want to do that, that's fantastic, because we can change that fairly easily. In the city of St. Louis, I only have to get about 60,000 people to agree with me to make radical changes to the way the city's going. But if I want to change something in Washington, I have to get close to 100 million people to agree with me. I don't have much of a voice there. I have a big voice in St. Louis. So it's the growth of government that bothers me. It's the failure to adhere to the Constitution, to the enumerated powers, reined in by the 10th Amendment. But
why don't you talk a little bit more about those enumerated powers and what you see as being the oversteps that Congress and maybe the President, both Obama and maybe George Bush before him, have made? What are the sort of oversteps that you think have occurred there?
Well, I would probably go all the way back to Theodore Roosevelt and
Fair enough.
Wilson.
I mean, yes, start there.
The Constitution in Article 1 lists specifically what the government is required to do. That it's our contract with them, it's our job description for the federal government from the people that says, here's what we want you to do on our behalf. We're turning over this responsibility, just as board of directors of a company turns over responsibilities for certain aspects of running the company to the CEO. We don't allow Congress to just pick and choose other things that it would like to do, and we rein them in with the 10th Amendment, which says that any powers not granted by the Constitution or prohibited by it are reserved to the states or to the people. And that's been ignored now for about 100 years. Theodore Roosevelt was one of the great proponents of expanded government, that the government would figure out what people need and fulfill that. Well, that's nonsense. The American ideal is that we take care of our own needs, and if our neighbors need help, we'll take care of them, which is why we're doing the food drive here that we hope is going to be one of the largest